My brother demanded I give him half of my inheritance because, as the oldest, he deserved more. When I refused, he stole my house keys, moved in while I was away, and changed the locks, smirking, "Try kicking me out now." The next morning, he opened the door, and froze as the police handed him an eviction notice. I never thought I'd be in a situation where I had to evict my own brother, but here we are. Let me start from the beginning. My parents were never rich, but they worked hard to give us a decent life. They had 3 kids, my older brother Carl, my sister Megan, and me, the youngest. We grew up in a modest 3-bedroom house in Austin, Texas. Nothing fancy, but it was home. When my parents passed, they left behind some money and assets. Megan got mom's jewelry and a small payout. Carl got a larger payout. And I got the house. Carl was not happy about this. As the oldest, I deserved more. Carl had always believed he was entitled to more than the rest of us. Growing up, he would throw a tantrum if someone else got the bigger slice of cake or the front seat in the car. As an adult, he didn't change much. He tried to argue that since he was the oldest, he should have gotten the house. In some cultures, the eldest inherits the family home, he said. It's tradition. I told him, we're not in those cultures. Mom and Dad made their choice. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. For months, Carl made snide comments. He'd say things like, "You're gonna struggle with property taxes. Just sell it and split the money. If I had the house, I'd actually do something useful with it. You don't even deserve it. You're not responsible enough." I ignored him. Then things got worse. He started trying to take what wasn't his. Carl still had a spare key from when we used to take care of the house together after our parents passed. I had meant to change the locks but kept putting it off. That turned out to be a huge mistake. At first, it was little things. Mail would go missing. I'd come home and notice my fridge had less food than I remembered. Once, I walked in and found Carl sitting on my couch, watching TV, acting like he lived there. "What the hell are you doing?" I asked. "Oh, I was just in the neighborhood. Figured I'd stop by," he said. "Stop by and let yourself in. Relax. It's not like I broke in. I have a key." That was the last straw. I told him to hand over the key. He refused, saying he needed it in case of emergencies. I told him there would be no emergencies requiring him to enter my house. I should have changed the locks that day. I went on a weekend trip. When I came back, I was locked out of my own house. A couple of months later, I took a weekend trip to Denver with friends. I was gone from Friday to Sunday. Sunday night, I got home, went to unlock my front door, and the key didn't work. At first, I thought I had the wrong key. I double-checked. Nope. Same key I'd always had. Then I saw the light was on inside. And someone was moving around. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again, harder this time. Then Carl opened the door. Smirking. Wearing pajamas. Behind him, I could see his wife, Sarah, sitting on the couch with their 2 kids. The place looked lived in. Like they had been there for days. I was in shock. "What the hell are you doing in my house?" Carl crossed his arms. "What do you mean? I live here now." I laughed, thinking this was some kind of joke. "No, you don't. Give me my keys and get out." His smirk grew wider. "You abandoned the house. You weren't living here. That means it's mine now." I stared at him, trying to process what I just heard. "What? You weren't living here, and I needed a place to stay. So, we moved in. You can't kick me out now. Squatters' rights." My blood ran cold. He thought he was untouchable. Carl had been watching too many YouTube videos about tenant laws and thought he could pull a fast one on me. "You can't just steal my house," I said. He shrugged. "Try getting rid of me. I changed the locks. I have mail coming here now. Go ahead, call the cops. They can't do anything. You have to legally evict me." I pulled out my phone. "Okay." Carl's smirk faltered. "Wait, what are you doing?" "Calling my lawyer." His face dropped. Whoa, let's not be dramatic. We can talk about this." "There's nothing to talk about. You're a trespasser." He started backtracking, saying I was overreacting, that we were family, that I was being selfish. I ignored him and walked away. If he wanted to play games, I was going to win. That night, I didn't sleep. I gathered every document I had, the deed, security footage, texts from Carl demanding the house, everything. Because in the morning, the law was coming for him. I barely slept. I was too angry. Too busy planning. By 7 a.m., I was sitting in my lawyer's office. He was just as pissed as I was. "You said he changed the locks?" he asked, skimming through my papers. "Yes. You have the deed, security footage of him breaking in, and messages proving he wanted the house?" "Yes." He smirked. "Then we've got him." By 9 a.m., we were standing outside my house, waiting for the sheriff. Carl had no idea what was about to hit him. At exactly 9:15 a.m., a cop car pulled up. A uniformed officer stepped out, an official eviction notice in hand. I folded my arms. Let's see if he's still laughing. The sheriff knocked. Carl opened the door, and froze. He looked at the sheriff, then at me. What's this?" The sheriff didn't even flinch. "Eviction notice. You have 24 hours to vacate." Carl blinked. His smirk came back, but this time it was forced. "You can't evict family." The sheriff gave him a long, tired look. "Sir, you are a trespasser. This is not your home." Carl's face started turning red. He actually looked panicked. "You can't do this," he said, voice rising. "I have mail coming here. That makes me a legal tenant." The sheriff sighed, already done with Carl's nonsense. "No, sir, it does not. Your name is not on the deed. You have no lease. You broke in and changed the locks. That makes you a criminal." Carl's wife, Sarah, walked into the room, rubbing her eyes. "What's going on?" Carl spun to her. "They're trying to kick us out." Sarah looked at me. "This isn't a joke." "Does it look like a joke?" I snapped. Sarah's face drained of color as she looked back at Carl. "Wait, you told me OP let us move in." Carl winced. Oh. That was interesting." Sarah turned back to me, genuinely confused. "So, you didn't agree to this?" I laughed, actually laughed. "Of course not. I was on a trip. I came back to find my own brother had stolen my house." Sarah turned slowly to Carl. "You said OP was struggling with the mortgage and wanted us to move in to help." Carl's jaw clenched. "Oh, he was so screwed." "Sarah, babe, listen, I was gonna tell you," Sarah cut him off. "We brought the kids here, Carl." And just like that, I saw something click in her head. She looked around at the sheriff, the legal papers, and then at me, then back at Carl. She inhaled sharply. "Oh my God. We're squatting." Carl reached for her arm. "Baby, I can fix this," Sarah yanked away. "Fix this? You got us kicked out of our apartment because you said we had a house waiting for us." Carl physically shrank. I've never seen him look so small. "Ma'am," the sheriff said to Sarah, ignoring Carl, "you have until tomorrow to leave." Sarah turned on Carl like a storm. "You told me we had a home, Carl. You told me this was OURS." Carl stammered, looking between me and her. I just thought." "No," Sarah snapped. "You didn't think at all." Then, she grabbed her purse, stormed past him, and went to grab their kids. Carl was shaking. I could actually see fear creeping into his face. "I can fight this," he mumbled, staring at the papers in his hands. "I just need a lawyer." "I can," the sheriff cut him off. "Sir, the more you fight, the worse this gets. If you don't leave in 24 hours, you'll be arrested for trespassing." Carl finally looked at me. "You wouldn't do that to me." I raised an eyebrow. "You stole my house. You don't get to play the "we're family" card now." His jaw tightened. "You think you won?" I smiled. "No. I know I won." Carl was out of options. His wife was furious. The sheriff was waiting. He had nothing left to say. And I wasn't done yet. Because Carl thought losing the house was bad. Wait till he saw what I had planned next. Carl thought he could fight it. Then things got worse. Carl stood there, gripping the eviction papers so hard his knuckles turned white. His wife, Sarah, was pacing now, mumbling things like, "Oh my God, I moved the kids into a stolen house, and how am I supposed to explain this to my parents? Carl, on the other hand, was still in denial. You can't do this to me, he muttered, eyes darting between the sheriff and me. I have nowhere else to go. The sheriff, already tired of Carl's nonsense, sighed. That's not my problem, sir. And that's when Carl did something so stupid, so unbelievably reckless, that I almost laughed. Carl tried to claim I had given him the house. He looked the sheriff dead in the eye and said, "This is actually my house. OP gave it to me. I have text messages proving it." I almost choked. "Excuse me." Carl pulled out his phone and waved it around like it was some magical evidence that would make this whole thing disappear. "I have proof," he insisted. OP told me I could have the house. Said he didn't want it anymore. The sheriff glanced at me. I folded my arms. "Show the texts, Carl." Carl hesitated. "Oh," I said, smirking. "You're bluffing." Carl quickly turned his phone around and showed the sheriff a screenshot. It was a cropped text message, edited so it looked like I had written, "I don't want the house anymore. You can have it." But I recognized the real conversation. What I had actually said, months ago, was, "I don't want to fight about the house anymore. You need to accept Mom and Dad's decision." Carl had literally cut off half the sentence. The sheriff stared at the screen, unimpressed. "Sir, do you have any actual legal documentation proving ownership?" Carl gulped. Well, no deed. No signed contract." Carl's face was crimson now. The sheriff gave him a long, bored look. "Then this is useless." Carl started stammering, scrambling for something, anything, to argue. But before he could speak, I pulled out my own phone. "Let's check the security footage, shall we?" And that's when Carl's face turned pale. I had cameras on my front porch and inside the house. Carl didn't know that. I played the clip for the sheriff. Clear as day, there was Carl, standing at my front door, looking both ways to make sure no one was watching before he jammed something into the lock and let himself in. Sarah gasped. Even the sheriff raised an eyebrow. Carl looked sick. Carl tried to back away, but the sheriff held up a hand. "That's called breaking and entering." Carl swallowed. Okay, but listen." "No," the sheriff said. "You listen. If you don't leave within 24 hours, I will arrest you for trespassing. But if OP wants to press charges for breaking and entering, you'll be dealing with a felony instead of an eviction." Carl's mouth opened. Then closed. He looked at me, pleading. "You wouldn't do that to me." I tilted my head. "You stole my house, Carl." Carl had no more excuses. He turned to Sarah. "Babe. You're not gonna let them do this to us, right?" Sarah laughed. Not a normal laugh, a hysterical, almost unhinged laugh. Carl stared. "What's so funny?" Sarah wiped her eyes. "You think I'm still on your side?" Carl took a step toward her. "Baby, come on, I did this for us." "No," Sarah cut him off. "You did this for you. I didn't know you lied about owning the house. I didn't know you broke in. You literally got us kicked out of our apartment because you said this house was ours." She took a deep breath. "You know what, Carl? We're done." Carl was losing everything. His face collapsed. "Wait, what?" Sarah shook her head. "I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not being homeless because of you. I'm not putting our kids through this." Then she turned to me. "I'm so sorry, OP. If I had known, I never would have gone along with this." I nodded, still watching Carl. Sarah sighed. "I'm taking the kids to my parents' house." Carl panicked. No, you can't just leave. We're a family." Sarah grabbed her purse and turned toward the door. "No, Carl. I'm a family. You're a problem." And with that, she walked out, taking their 2 kids with her. Carl stood frozen. His wife had just walked out. His kids were gone. I could see the reality crashing down on him. The house was never his. The law wasn't on his side. And now, he had nothing left. But I wasn't finished yet. Because Carl thought losing his family and his fake claim to my house was bad. I still had one last move to make. Carl thought he could still win. He had no idea what was coming. Carl stood there, his face pale, his body frozen. His wife had just walked out. His kids were gone. The sheriff had already made it clear, he had 24 hours before he'd be arrested. He had nothing left. But I still had one last move to make. I pressed charges. I gave Carl a chance. More than he deserved. But the moment he tried to fake evidence, I was done playing nice. So, while Carl was still standing in the doorway of my house, trying to process how his entire life had just imploded, I turned to the sheriff. I want to press charges for breaking and entering. Carl's head snapped up. The sheriff nodded. You have the evidence. I pulled out my phone. You saw it yourself. Carl's face twisted in pure panic. No, 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 you don't have to do that. Look, I'll leave, okay? I swear. Just, don't do this. I folded my arms. You tried to steal my house, Carl. His eyes darted around like he was searching for an escape route. Then his expression turned desperate. Please, he said, stepping forward. Look, I screwed up. I get it. But pressing charges? That's too far. I didn't flinch. You stole my house. Carl let out a hollow laugh. I didn't steal it, you changed the locks, Carl. His face twisted. Yeah, okay, but, you moved your family in, lied to your wife, lied to the cops, and tried to fake texts to make it look like I gave you the house. Carl's mouth opened. Then closed. Because there was nothing left to say. The sheriff sighed. All right, Carl, turn around. Carl actually jumped back. Wait. You don't have to arrest me. I'll leave. I'll leave right now. The sheriff raised an eyebrow. Not how it works. And that's when Carl lost it. He turned to me, his entire body shaking. You're my brother. You're supposed to help me. I stared at him. You weren't acting like family when you stole my house. Carl screamed. Actually screamed. He kicked the doorframe, punched the air, stomped his foot like a toddler. This isn't fair, he shouted. I was supposed to have more. I'm the oldest. I deserved the house. And then, finally, I said what I should have said a long time ago. No, Carl. You deserved exactly what Mom and Dad left you. You just couldn't accept that you weren't special. His entire face collapsed. Because that was the truth. Carl had spent his whole life thinking that just because he was the oldest, he deserved more than the rest of us. More respect. More money. More attention. But our parents never saw it that way. And now. Reality had hit him like a freight train. Sarah had left. The cops were taking him in. And the house, the one thing he had spent months obsessing over, was gone. As Carl was being cuffed, his last words were, "You'll regret this, OP. One day, you'll wish you had me on your side." I didn't respond. Because, honestly, I wouldn't. The sheriff put him in the back of the car. A neighbor peeked outside, whispering, and I could already hear someone texting the family group chat. I turned around and stepped back into my house. And for the first time in months, it actually felt like mine. A few days later, Sarah reached out. I'm sorry, she said. I really didn't know. I believed her. She wasn't the villain here, Carl was. She told me she was filing for divorce. I can't be with someone who put our kids in that situation. And honestly, I was relieved for her. Carl, meanwhile, he spent a couple of nights in jail. Since it was his first offense, he got off with probation. But now, he had nowhere to go. Megan called me a week later. You heard about Carl? I sighed. What now? He's staying at Aunt Ruth's. I almost laughed. Aunt Ruth was the one family member who took no crap from anyone. If Carl thought he could mooch off her, he was in for a rude awakening. Megan sighed. I know he's awful, but, do you think he'll ever change? I thought about that for a long time. Then I shook my head. No. People like Carl don't change. They just get better at lying. And with that, I finally moved on.